And so we have to set those guidelines even in our house. For example, if we want to make that guideline in our house to shine light, okay, in my house, no longer is this going to happen. No longer are you going to be able to use foul language around me. It's not that I don't love you. It's not that I don't care for you. It is that I don't want to hear it. So we got to be the ones to set those. And as we set those guidelines, they'll start seeing the light come from us.
Welcome back, guys, to episode 12 of New Life Baptist After Hours. Today we are going to be discussing about have you seen the light, meaning if you have seen the light of Christ and seen out of the darkness of your sin and being able to be alive again in Him. And Jason's going to be explaining a little bit on what he preached on Sunday, but we did want to introduce our new guest, Miss Esmer. She has been with Pastor Jason and Katie since the beginning, I would say, Reese, since 2012. So she's been here with us. She's seen us grow from the ground and up, basically. So Jason's going to go on and explain the sermon a little bit.
All right, so we're on Acts 26, right? From your notes?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Can't remember. Anyway, and here's Paul. Paul's being brought in front of King Agrippa, and the whole city has brought all the, pretty much if you think about our time, like all the people in power, those who make the decisions for Caesarea, and they're all there in this room, like an auditorium. And Paul's in chains, and he is going to be pleading on behalf of Christ. Not pleading to be set free, but pleading that he's got to go to Rome to see Caesar, because that's where Jesus said you're going. And so last week we talked about, the message was about the Lord fights our battles for us. He said the Lord's already told him you're going to Rome. So there's nothing King Agrippa can do to stop him from going to Rome. We'll soon get to it. It'll be shipwrecked twice, and that did not keep him from going to Rome. And he'd be bit by a viper, and it still will not keep him from going to Rome. And so and that's the thing we've got to understand is none of us are in chains. All of us are free, and we do not share the light like we should. We don't live a life that shows that we live like the light. Like this light is really putting off the light. And if I cut this light off, that light stays bright. So even for us as believers, this is how we've got to shine our light in the darkness. And this is what Paul's doing where he's at. Paul's in this whole auditorium that's completely dark spiritually. And Paul is letting the light of Christ shine out from that.
I like that the light of Christ is burning through you right now, Jason. I can see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Radiating on you.
It's radiating. So the first question is going to be, can you share a moment when the light of Christ became real to you? So to explain the question a little bit more is when you guys became a Christian, living the life of Christ might have been like new to you. You guys would have not known the pressure that was upon you. And so when maybe a moment you were living and then someone pointed out a sin that you didn't think was displayed highly, so now you're aware of it, and so now you're thinking of your fellow believers and thinking of the fellow people who don't know Christ and how that you living your life impacts everyone around you. So do you guys have a moment on when that was pointed out to you, so now you know, like, example for Christ or ambassador for Christ, basically? I know I had shared a moment. I think I had shared like in the first podcast with when I was at work and me thinking when I was listening to rap music or non-Christian music, I didn't think it was a big part of my worship or my walk with Christ. But when I was singing those songs in front of my coworker who was recently just becoming a Christian, he pointed out to me that I had cussed, or I was singing a song and I cussed along with it, and I didn't. But that made me realize because I'm taking a part of singing that song, being a part of the world, it made me a part along with it. Even though I didn't say it, I was still a part of, or like considered part of it. So I needed to separate myself and stand out and not be part of those and go along with it, but go against it and show who Christ truly is by listening to encouraging music or maybe just a podcast or the Word of God, or just not worldly things. That was my example. I don't know if you guys had one as well.
I have one. Maybe I'm sure I have one that probably, somebody probably called me out on something. But I thought of one from when I was a new believer and I was still working at Lowe's at the time, and the group of friends that I had were not godly at all, and they were pretty much the opposite. But I was trying to be Christ-like. I had recently accepted Christ. They knew it. And I tried to share that light with them as much as possible. I wanted them to hear the word of God, and I wanted them to see that through me. And there were the things that I was cutting out of my life. I was not using foul language anymore. I had stopped listening to secular music. I was really trying to only listen to Christian music completely, and that was a real hard thing for me to do. So to completely change to that was what I had to do at the time. And, I really didn't want to use foul language, but all the people around me were. I mean, it was just that type of environment. And so I said to one of my friends, because he just was saying some awful things, and I said, do you mind just not saying stuff like that around me? Like, it just really, I really just don't want to hear it. And he got so mad that I asked him not to say it. I didn't tell him to stop cussing. I didn't tell him to do anything, but I just said not around me. Mm-hmm. And he got so mad, and he said, well, you're the one who's changed. I don't know why we have to change because you're the one who's changed. And at the time, I thought, that really hurt me. But then when I shared that with Jason, he said, you are the one that has changed, and you should be proud of that. Mm-hmm. So, we can show that light.
I feel that's one of my fears. Yeah. Doing that. Like, if I tell someone don't do, especially my family, if I tell my family, don't curse around me, don't do this, I know for a fact they're going to, get real mad at me.
I mean, that's on them, though, really, because you're the one who is trying to be different, and cuss words really bother me. When I hear it, it really, they get stuck in my head, and I don't want to hear it, and I don't want to slip up and say it. Yeah. Just because somebody else around me has said it, or because I've heard it. I mean, you can't even watch TV without hearing a commercial with cuss words or whatever. Yeah. And so it's just really frustrating. You can't go through videos on Facebook. I mean, anything. And it really, really does bother me. So for people around me to not use that language was really important to me. And I was really trying to seek Christ and really grow and know more. Mm-hmm. And I just felt like at that time I just had to stand up for that because I didn't want to hear it. And he didn't say cuss words around me anymore. I mean, I don't talk to him anymore now. But at the time, when I was still there, he didn't say anything else around me.
Oh, but did your guys' friendship change too? Or?
I mean, yes, because it was just a toxic work environment and everything. And once I left there, I pretty much wasn't friends with them anymore. But it was a good thing too because I didn't need to be around that. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I had changed for something different, and they were still kind of stuck in that party type of thing, and I didn't want to be around that. So I was trying to be the light, but
got a little heated on.
yeah, and it happens, but it just the Lord can still use it. Maybe he thinks about that. I don't know, but
hopefully.
So I don't know.
I can see him have the verse right there.
Oh, I have a verse, yeah. But, because, you're saying, you got the language in your mind and stuff, and how you and your friend were, it's like opposites of each other. It's kind of like you can't take water and put it in here, because they don't go together. Mm. And if it's hot enough, even if you throw water on there, the water's not going to have nothing to do with it. Yeah. It is what's the dominance, what's going to stand out. Right now, the dominance is the fire, but that water would definitely put these three little flames out like that. Yeah. But if this whole table was on fire, you put that water here, it's not going to. And so that's what we got to think about our minds. If we're not letting the light shine in our mind and take the things that comes through our mind captive. Whatever's in our mind is what's going to dominate. And that's 2 Corinthians 10:5, where it says, we destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God, and take every thought captive to obey Christ. And so that's walking in the light. And that's where we have to see in our own life is like, if I see someone who's not walking in the light, hopefully I'm going to take the light over to them and help lead them down the correct path.
Yeah.
And so just yell at them and say, you're on your own. Good luck. Right? I mean, so that's where we have to look at. And, I have several, but I remember, Paul said he had that moment with Christ whenever he was a non-believer and the Lord spoke to him, appeared to him in that light as brighter than midday. Now, I didn't have the experience of the bright light, but I did have the experience sitting in the church pew, thought I was a child of God, and the pastor was sharing about how to become a believer, and Jesus said, he's talking about you, because you don't know me. Yeah. And that's when I seen the light. And, and I can tell you, the light was shining bright when I first was there, and so bright that I went to church 7 days a week, because back in North Carolina, they have revivals all the time. So I found revivals from every county, every place. I was going everywhere.
That's nice.
Oh yeah, it was. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
But then I felt the Lord was calling me to preach, and so I asked some friends of mine who are pastors, and they gave me worldly advice, not godly advice, to really help build me up. And so I took their advice wrong, and I ran from God. And so, but God's plan was for me to be here, just as Paul's plan is for him to go to Rome. And even though I might have made some really bad choices in my life through my spiritual walk, the Lord has never changed his light towards me. I just have to realize where I'm going, that I stop and go back to the light.
I don't think I ever asked you this, but how long did it from you being a Christian till being called to be a pastor? How long was that? Do you know the time period? Was it a month?
Oh, no.
No?
It was years.
Years?
It was years.
Oh, really?
I
don't know why I thought it was a month.
8 years.
Because I got saved in 2004.
8 years.
It was March 7, 2004. And, I mean, I was on fire going to church constantly for a couple of years. And
10 years, right? I mean, because you were ordained in 2013.
Yeah, 10 years from the day I gave my life to the Lord, today I was ordained.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, but 2004, I gave my life to the Lord, and like I said, I had some really bad advice. I had a pastor who, his heart was literally for just certain people who gave in the church. I love him to death, but that's just where his heart was. And sometimes as a pastor, we really focus about numbers and money and so forth, because if you don't have money, you can't stay open. If you don't have numbers, you can't stay open. So a lot of times that's what you focus on. I feel that's what he was really focused on. But I felt the Lord calling me to preach, and I'd ask some questions, and another friend of mine who's a pastor, I asked him, I said, how do you know you've been called to preach? He said, well, if you can run from it, you're not called. And I was like, okay, so if I run from it, I'm not called. He said, yeah. So I just stopped everything. I stopped going to church. I just stopped everything. Yeah. But then I got to where I was so frustrated with church, because of being hurt by church, by the pastor, by other members of the church that I was attending, that I was letting them dictate or control my spiritual life. And so, just like everybody else, and it was probably 2007, I guess, when that was, but I told God, I said, I'll go back to church when I find my wife. And then, less than a year, I found Katie. And that's what we said when we first started dating. We're going to center the relationship on Christ, even though we neither ones knew how to do that.
Well, we just wanted to be in church together. We didn't really know what all that with.
we wanted to put Jesus in a relationship.
Yeah.
And so that's what we started doing. We went to a few churches, went to Mount Pleasant first, and
Some other church.
and then I went to the church that hurt me, and the pastor hurt me. Went there a couple times. It just wasn't us, and we kind of like, okay, I guess we're fine. I mean, whatever. 2 churches and not connecting, so we're good. And then we waited a few months later, and then Kay's like, let's go back to Mount Pleasant. So okay, so we went, and then that service, it just clicked, and we started going, started serving, and I think probably 6 months later.
But really, though, it was because of Kathy. She came up to us. She's noticed. I don't know if she knew you or she's just really friendly. She came
Steve
on
Walter
the trip.
knew me.
I remember her.
Yeah, Kathy Eller. She has the two daughters. They've come to Olivia and Lydia. Well, she came out to us and she knew that we were engaged, and she just shared with us like how much she loved like marriage and her husband, how their foundation was on Christ, and she just was so sweet. We're like, okay, we're coming back here. Yeah. Like it was just, it was just warm and welcoming, and then we got
married, and then as soon as we got married, we came back. We joined the church. Mm-hmm. It was like the very following Sunday.
Mm-hmm. We were really growing before that, though. Yeah,
and then Steve Walter, which I knew Steve from working at Lowe's. He was a contractor, so he got us involved in Sunday school, which was the most horrible Sunday school attendees ever in church history. We didn't
get involved as teachers, or
just to go to Sunday school.
We were late.
We wouldn't show up. And I can remember one Sunday, and Ken, which was our deacon at one time, and I love Ken to death, but Ken asked me to pray, and I used some lame excuse.
He said he couldn't talk.
I said, I didn't say that. I said, I don't feel good. My throat hurts from my sinuses.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. And the Lord worked on me like crazy after that. Well, Ken had no idea. He didn't even think nothing else about it. But I tell him all the time. It was because he challenged me to pray. It made me realize I messed up a great opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I've never missed that chance since. But, and so and then we realized, woke up at one Sunday, it's like, hey, we're the worst church attendees ever, so we're going to fix this. And so that's when we really decided to serve. Mm-hmm. We was at every church service. We were at every church event. I remember being at a kids event. It was just for the kids, and the parents didn't want to go serve. But there we were serving. They're like, why are you serving? You have no kids. We're like, the doors are open. They said they needed people volunteer, and so we're volunteering. Mm-hmm. And so that's what, we even taught Vacation Bible School. We taught a Sunday school class. We started a Bible study on our own. Well, we didn't start, but someone else started. We just came along with them along the arms together. But it was like a group of us. Oh, cool. It was just a group of...
and at that time, Mount Pleasant didn't have that.
No, they didn't have like small groups where we did our own Bible study. In which that was Lauren started it, and she had all of us in that circle. I think I was the oldest one. I'm just the old man of the bunch. I was, and then
we were the only married couple.
We was the only married couple, and then we had Lauren and us, and we had Katie and Josh and Jordan and so it was just Ashley, just a group.
Yeah. Everybody met and got married. I don't know.
Yeah, everybody in that group got married. Met someone, got married in that group, and everything else, and then they kind of stopped the group.
But we moved off, but yeah.
Yeah. But the thing was, we got involved, and we built a circle of godly friends.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you really get your light to shine. You got to build that circle. Yeah. And we would even go downtown Winston-Salem and hand out peanut butter sandwiches, clothes, bottle of water. Was there people there who really took advantage of us? Absolutely. But there were some people that never did. And I can remember one guy coming and he said, can I exchange my jacket for one of these? I don't need 2 jackets. I just need one because I ain't got nowhere to go. And so he took his jacket off and he laid it down there. He picked him out a heavier jacket. I remember we didn't have no jackets. And this guy showed up, and he really needed a jacket. He was in a wheelchair, so I took my jacket and I gave it to him. You know, and those things is what really built us together. Then we had Ashley and Katie and trying to think, I think Josh too. All of them gathered around in a circle and started singing in the middle of downtown Winston-Salem.
Oh, wow, that's nice.
And you know, and those are the things that build people up. That's what really grows us spiritually, and that is really walking in the light.
Yeah.
Is that we got to surround ourselves with the light, because everything around this light is going to shine, and everything that's near is going to reflect the light. Just as you said, it was reflected off my face. And so, and that's what we've got to do. And that's what Paul's doing around in Caesarea, around this group of men. The Lord is shining out from him. Did everybody come to know Christ from his speaking? No. Maybe one? Maybe. But is that one worth it? Absolutely.
Well, something you said made me think of the game Red Rover.
Oh, yeah.
Because when we are locking arms together, when we're closer to each other and building that, you know, that community and that relationship with each other and growing in the Word, we're stronger together. We have more confidence in the Word because we're learning together and we're kind of just feeding off each other.
Yeah.
And, you know, that game Red Rover, when you have more people and you're stronger, they can't break through. And so, you know. And
also in that group, when we left, people in our group actually stepped up to take over a Sunday school class.
Yeah.
And so, which is, you're discipling and you're getting together and you're encouraging more people to get involved and to serve and to be a part. And that's what you see with Paul. Remember, Felix said, we're going to hold Paul in custody, but do not hesitate his friends and family to come and visit him. I bet it was like a party all the time, all these people walking in and out, sitting with Paul and praying together and praising together. And, you know, and I think as a church, if New Life Baptist started serving together and stopped making excuses why we can't be there for Sunday school, make excuses why we can't be there for Wednesday night, Sunday morning, making excuses why we can't do anything, but start making church and our family, which is New Life, the purpose and everything else an excuse why we cannot miss church. And I think that's when you'll start seeing Weslaco change, and even in our families.
Exactly. Did you want anything else to this question?
Just listening. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
We can go on to the next question. You
and then I'll see.
Next one. Do you have it?
Yeah. What does it mean to you personally to walk in the light of Christ? For your
personal
walk with Christ.
I think that's just being an example of Christ in everyday life, and meaning like in your work and your just after work as well, and your family events, anywhere that you're going outside of your house, you have to show who Christ is. And again, that's just through how you talk, what you have around you, like how Jason said, like you surrounding yourself with Christian friends and a Christian environment. That's how you're able to show who Christ is. So you do that constantly. That's you being the light of Christ, I would say.
One, to kind of help you as an example, I know that every time, like, you'll meet random people sometimes, and there'll be another believer, and they'll ask you, "Oh, are you a believer? Because there's something different about you."
Yes, that's happened to me
a few times.
But I also feel like me personally, like, not that I don't know, maybe straying, maybe it is straying, but like these last few weeks, I've just been really like wanting to seek more and be more, and like, I guess trying to show my light at work or anywhere. But like I told myself, like, a few weeks ago, I was just like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna be a part, I'm gonna keep going, I'm gonna, because yes, we do have the excuses of, oh, I'm tired, or sometimes, if you're sick, you're sick. I mean, it happens. We're getting older. We're getting older, Jason.
How in the world you say we're getting older and look right at me?
Because
We're the same age.
Yes, we're the same age, but it is. The age is just creeping up, and everything hurts. I'm broken.
My body's falling apart.
Yes, my body's falling apart. But anyways, like last few weeks ago, I told myself I'm gonna go, and I want to. I told Mando I love my church. I love the people that I'm surrounded with. I love that we come together. I was like, every time, I want to be there. I just want to be there, and yes, Mando's a little behind, but I've been praying about him. I've been asking people to pray because I feel it, and I feel it, and I know he knows, and I'm trying to instill that in my family because at one time we all went. Remember, the whole pew would be full of my family. Now it's just me or Emily, just us two.
Yeah. The whole Puente's made up the whole
bench.
I
know.
The whole family.
So I've been like trying to talk to my kids, and I have been telling, I'm like, you all need to plug yourself into church, whether or not you don't have to follow me, but follow Christ and go find yourself a church that you guys can plug yourself into. I want them with me. I want you guys with me, but if you don't want to be with mom, go find a church. I go because you need to be raising your children, and of course, they need to get married, but that's a different subject. But anyways, I've been trying to shine my light more at work, and I'm just like Christian music all day in my car now. I'm just trying. I want to grow, and I want to.
How you shared with Luke about Easter.
Oh yes,
that makes an impact.
Yes. Because he was, because he wanted to know when Easter was coming because he knows I make a little basket.
Yeah.
I make a basket. Grandma, Easter's taking forever to get here. And I'm like, I know what you want. You want your little present, your little gift that I'm making you guys, but that's like, would you even know the meaning of Easter? Mm-hmm. He's like, no, Grandma. And I was like, and so I started explaining to him and he's listening. It's like you say they're sponges.
Cool? Just give them baskets that are empty. And because the tomb is empty. And say, come on, we're all going to church together. Come to church, and after church, okay, now here's your little gifts after church.
Because the gift is Christ.
Anyway.
But explaining.
Yeah, you can use that to explain them, and then you can bring out their actual baskets after that, or whatever. But say, hey, this whole reason
I told him that the Easter basket is not. This is not the meaning of Easter.
Yeah.
Luke, I go, it's just a little something that man created, and we just, and me being a grandma, I have to.
Well, it's the custom of society.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what everybody does. Everybody does Easter baskets. Everybody does Santa for Christmas.
Right.
And, I do not at all look down upon anybody who wants to celebrate that way. If they want to do the Easter eggs and Santa Claus, whatever. But, but to me and our family, we decided we didn't want to teach that.
Yeah.
They know of it. They know that this is what people celebrate. But Easter's all about the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. And Christmas is all about the birth of Jesus. So they get presents, yes, but we don't celebrate the other things. Mm-hmm. And, and that's okay if they do. But the main thing is we got to teach them the truth. And like with your family, all your children now are at the age that they all have to own it. Yeah. You've taught them, you've done everything you can, you still do that now, but now it's up to them to do it. Yeah. Because, I can take you by the hand and bring you there all the time, but if you don't want to be there, it's not going to work. Yeah. And so, it goes for all of us, even our spouses or whatever. Which I know there's a lot of people praying for Mondo, and all the men group talk about Mondo, pray for Mondo. Mm-hmm. And I know people care, and people are praying, and this is where we got to join together.
He has said it like I think he feels like, I don't even know if I should, like an outcast type, like he feels that he's like, because he has mentioned it, he was like, I don't feel it, like I don't feel the men coming, like they'll just be like walk past him, like I guess he doesn't feel welcome sometimes. And I go, Mondo, you're letting somebody get into your mind. I said, but it's not like that. So when Eric actually, and I'm sure I was like thinking about it, I'm sure you told him in Thursday, invite somebody. You know how you challenge us
Oh,
to
yeah.
invite people to church? So I was like, oh, that's a Jason thing. You know, in men's Bible study, invite somebody
How
from
do I get
church.
blamed for
No, it's your fault.
It's your fault.
It is.
No, but Eric went up to him and it made it did make a difference. Like
Yeah.
it did, and I told him, you know, he's inviting you to a men's Bible study, and you know, I was like, we can go together. I was like, mine starts at 7, yours is 6:30, but you know, he gets out at 6. Like, well, it's okay if you're
Yeah.
late. Be late rather than
We don't
not
ever
showing
start
up.
on time anyway
Exactly,
because we're
because
divided.
talking, and because we're talking all the time.
Yeah.
I go, just come. So
And I'm saying this, I'm not meaning anything against Mondo, but a lot of times when people are not getting involved and they're not serving, they will say that they feel like they're not wanted or they're not.
feeling welcome
Yeah.
or whatever.
And that's
But
the
a lot of
tools of the
times,
enemy.
yeah, and a lot of times it's just because you're not there. Like
Exactly.
I hate to say it like that, but if you're not involved, then we don't know to look for you,
Right.
and we just feel like, okay, well, I guess you've made that
You
decision.
kind of outcast yourself.
Right.
I mean,
Well-
it's
And it's nothing like bad. We
No,
should
yeah.
be, checking and seeing, but a lot of times, if it's multiple times,
not that you don't care. It's
Yeah,
just it's just kind of like, I mean,
it's
it's
hard
the same
to,
way.
like,
If you're gonna
yeah.
outcast yourself, how are you gonna make somebody?
Yeah.
Well, you yourself, if you don't feel like you're part of something, you're not going to look to be part of something.
That's true.
You start looking for things of why you're not part of it. You know, and that's what we're all guilty of.
Yeah.
Even myself is like, nobody cares about me. No one's ever asked me
The
how
whole,
I'm
the whole,
doing.
the whole
Yeah.
word
Yes,
from
I
last
mean,
one,
it's-
you know.
I mean,
If
that's
Mason
how-
hadn't messaged me today, he must not love me anymore.
Yeah.
I mean,
It could be anything.
it could
like
be
that.
anything. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing is, they have to own it.
Yeah.
Your kids have to own it. Mondo has to own it. I have to own it. So if I want to be a part of something, I got to put forth the effort to
The
be
effort,
part
exactly,
of it.
exactly.
And we did challenge all the men to invite other men in the church, and we mentioned Mondo's name too. And that's the reason we did the breakfast, because Mondo loves to cook.
That's the reason why I asked him to do the parade, drive the parade,
Yeah.
because we could have asked
Yes.
anybody, but
And see,
one
even that
time-
was like he was like, why did they ask me? He's like, of everybody, and I was like, well, I don't know, Mondo. I mean, take that as like, I mean, he liked it. He liked it. You know what I mean?
We know he
But-
would and want to get part of it. And that's
I
what
could
I
just
asked a
see
lot
him
of
just
people.
laughing and
And he
smiling
was-
at everybody. And I was like,
And I'm
Mondo
like,
would be
okay,
perfect.
no one not waving back, then okay, hi,
But that's what we do. I
Yeah.
mean, that's being a church family. That's where that group comes in together. I know me and Katie have been talking about how can we, because y'all had a conversation at a birthday party about how can you get these young people into the church, get them plugged in. And so, I believe I have an idea. I'm still working on it, but I think this would be the best way, and that's doing like a Bible study just for that area, that age, and I don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but it'd be like a Sunday evening.
Coffee and sweetbread.
Yeah, we do coffee,
With
sweetbread,
Young
and
adults.
it don't be young adults. It would just be, I don't know, because you could be.
Younger adults.
Yeah, because you're looking at those
Yeah.
high school, college kids,
Yeah.
young career kids starting off, getting married or whatever. Not kids, but they're adults. But just to come and grow together. I think at first it might be like, how do you study Scripture? Why is it important? And that way, because you can invite your friends. More than likely, your friends will come to something like that, a small gathering. Maybe not do it every Sunday night, maybe every other Sunday night.
Have some worship time.
Have some worship time together and then open up the Word of God and study. And so maybe that'll open up times to bring in your kids. They're that age. And they can come and be a part and ask questions. And because that's how we grow. We got to ask questions. We got to be able to talk about it. And I think that this generation has got a curiosity to know Christ. It's just that they're seeking it at the wrong places.
Yep.
That's not growing them.
Yeah.
I feel that they're going to some churches that are teaching them things that's not biblical because they're not really open up the Word of God to say, okay, that's not true. That's not true. They're just listening like, well, that sounds good.
I feel good.
I feel good. And this really happens even to older generation.
Mm-hmm.
A few weeks ago, we went to visit a lady that was having some spiritual attacks, and she's probably in her 70s. And she started talking, and she kept starting to say something, and it was like something negative that happened, and she goes, I take it back. I take it back. I can't say that. And I said, ma'am, excuse me, well, what are you doing? She goes, if I speak it, it comes into existence.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, ma'am, yes, I said, ma'am, whatever you're listening to, whoever pastor you listen to, you don't have no power to do that. You don't have power to say $1 million fall down the sky right now. Or, Lord, I speak on behalf of this diabetes. You take it away. I don't have diabetes no more. It is gone. Because there's a gentleman I pick up sometimes who needs a ride. And that's what he tells me I need to do about my diabetes. Because I don't have enough faith. That's why I still have it. And I'm like, no, I still have it because my pancreas ain't working. I need insulin. But anyway, that's the thing is, and I had explained to her that she's not a God. She's not God. She's not Jesus. So whatever we say does not mean it comes into existence. But what we need to do is put our faith in them. And so that's where we need this Bible study to kind of help this generation to come in and ask those questions and ask, hey, what's worship all about? Why do I need to come to church?
Yeah.
You know, do I have to give up this to come to church? You know, it's not that you have to give up anything. It's you choose to give it up because you're married now to Christ. Mm-hmm. It's like you guys are all married. We're all married. And so did you have to give up seeking another relationship with somebody else? Or did you choose not to seek a relationship with somebody else? There's a lot of married people that still seek the desire of a relationship with other people. But you had to make a decision. I'm not going to seek that anymore. Because this is where I should be at.
Yeah.
I know we kind of strayed off from that question, the second one, but let me try to see if I can go back onto the third one, which is, which is in what ways, this one, right?
Yeah.
What ways are you intentionally shining the light? I think we kind of answered that one, which is saying, in which ways are we intentionally shining Christ's light in your family, workplace, or community? Which, Ezra did share, like, how she's sharing the light around. And I feel like you share it a lot with your character. I know Katie was saying that right now, but, like, like, just the way you present yourself, you're very kind. You're very giving, especially in the church. If someone says, oh, we need a pot of rice or something, you're just there, like, immediately giving it. And Mando's the same way, too. Yes. So we do really hope that Mando just keeps growing and joining into the church. But I don't know if, you do deliveries, do you show your light doing deliveries in any way? Like
the guy that he gives a ride.
Yeah, that was all from me doing a delivery.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You had to pick him up, or what?
Well, he needs a ride to go see his wife that's in a nursing home.
Oh.
And so he calls me and he says, Ronnie, can you come get, because everything's listed as Ronnie because of my first name, and I don't tell him no different. And so I give him a ride, you know, and we talk about the Lord and all this stuff and so forth. I've had to deliver, because I usually try not to deliver anything that's got alcoholic beverages in it, because I don't want that nowhere near me. But sometimes I can't help it. And so I delivered one time to this lady, and I had on my New Life Baptist Church. Mm-hmm. And she goes, a Baptist deliver me my alcohol? And I said, well, ma'am, I said, I'm a pastor here locally. She goes, and you're a pastor? I said, ma'am, I did not buy this. You bought this. And she goes, and she goes, oh. And I said, she goes, well, don't look at me wrong. I said, ma'am, that's between you and the Lord, not between me and you. I said, you chose to do this. You're chosen to do this. So that's between you and him.
Yeah.
Not between me and you. I'm just dropping off your groceries, ma'am. And you have a good day. God bless you. Now, I've had some of them that I've actually sat down and prayed with. Rolly's mom, Marlena's.
Heidi.
Yeah. Heidi's son-in-law who passed away a few years ago. Mm-hmm. I delivered to his mom. Oh, wow. And she saw me. She said, Pastor Jason. Oh. I hadn't seen her because she used to work at H-E-B, but she don't work there no more because she's really depressed ever since her son. Yeah. And so I was talking with her, shared with her, invited her to come, prayed with her right there. and she had beer cans all over outside, and she said, I have a problem. I said, yeah, I see that. I said, but you're seeking your answers from these things here on the ground than seeking Jesus. And so I want to encourage you to come. So I prayed with her, loved on them, and so that's the thing is about us shining a light.
Yeah.
Now, I can't make anybody stop. Same way with your family, our family.
Yeah.
But I do set the guidelines. All right? Just as Katie said with her friend, I told him not to curse around me. Now, you can curse all you want to over there. I just don't want to hear it. Okay? I'm asking you to do that. Because we're friends, and I love you, and I just don't want to hear it. And so we set those guidelines even with our family. Like I said so many times in church, how many times has someone called me and said, Pastor, come over to the barbecue, and I'm bringing beer? I never get that. I never have had an issue.
Yeah.
Because people know my guidelines. And if I was throwing a party, and people know alcohol is not going to be involved.
Yeah.
And so we have to set those guidelines even in our house. For example, if we want to make that guideline in our house to shine a light, okay, in my house, no longer is this going to happen. No longer are you going to be able to use foul language around me. It's not that I don't love you. It's not that I don't care for you. It is that I don't want to hear it. So we got to be the ones that set those. And as we set those guidelines, they'll start seeing the light come from us. Now listen, I could say no cursing in my house, and the next thing I know, I curse. I'm horrible. And everybody's like, how dare you tell me that? And you're just sitting there doing it.
It's my house. I do what I want.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's where we got to really stand on that if we really want to make a change in our family and our friends. My mom, she still slips up and says words. And then I catch her because I'm like, Mom, she's like, you used to say it? And I said, absolutely. The key word there was used to, but it's no longer a part of my vocabulary. And the only reason it's not part of my vocabulary because I'm taking every thought captive and forcing it to obey Christ. Yeah. And so that's what we've got to do even in our house. We take everything captive and force it to obey Christ. Yeah. And that goes for our language, our thoughts, our actions, and so forth. And it's hard. And listen, it's scary. It is not an easy battle. No. Yeah. For you to look at somebody, especially a loved one, and say, you can no longer do that around me. Yeah. It's hard.
They've done it for a while around your
Yes. I remember Katie's dad's birthday party. We hadn't even been in the ministry 8 months. Because Kayla was born that October. And we flew back because her stepmom was dying with cancer. And then we came back and then drove back after she passed away and everything. And her dad's birthday party was in a bar. And it wasn't like a Applebee's where you have a bar in the center. It was full-blown bar. Oh. And we felt that we shouldn't go to it. And the reason why is because we have a 2-month-old. Yeah. And plus we didn't want to be a bad example to other people if they saw us. Yeah. Right? And so, and Katie dealt with that with some of her family, about it because they didn't understand why. But see, that's the thing. That's where we have to really, it's going to be hard. It was really hard conversations. Yeah. Because they were mad. They were mad, and even some
just
conversations.
Decisions that we had for ourselves, we didn't tell them. They couldn't do it, but they just didn't like it. Yeah. For us,
because they felt like we were pressing it to them. Yeah. But we really wasn't.
They think that you think you're better than them. I feel like I get that from that. We think that we're better than them, but we're not. We're just trying not to stay. We're staying away from it.
Yeah. And it has nothing. It has nothing to do with. It's just what we need to do for ourselves to walk in the light.
And I think also they don't understand when we put importance of God over anything in sense of finances, jobs, or anything. Like we had a conversation with our uncle. I don't know if I can say this right, but we had a conversation with our uncle, and when we kept telling him, like, we're fine where we're at, like, I'm fine what I'm doing and what I'm making, like, he would look at me, he's like, well, don't you want to strive for more? Like, don't you want to do this? Don't you want to do that? And I was like, no, I mean, I'm good where I'm at because God's blessed me with what I have already. I don't need to strive for more unless God gives me more. but that's between me and him.
Mhm.
But I feel like that's what they don't understand a lot of times is that we put the importance on
Yeah.
Christ instead of everything else around it.
Well, they don't understand the lie.
Yeah.
Now, they understand this cup because that cup holds a liquid,
Yeah.
but they don't understand the lie.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like we've gone into places where people who are Christians who are drinking alcohol, and we don't say nothing to them, and they looking at us, talking to us, and they saying, "Oh,
Like it's not there.
like it's not there, not theirs." They slide to the other people sitting with them. Even though I can see it out of the corner of my eye, but I'm not saying nothing to them. And then I've seen them where they've come and they'll fill the coffee cup up with wine because they don't want us to see them drinking wine. And I'm like, I mean, I really don't care.
Yeah.
That's between you and the Lord. Just like that lady. Our Baptist, ma'am, I get paid to bring it to you. I didn't buy it. And that's the thing, even with us, is a lot of people feel that we're judging them because we're walking in the light, but we're not judging them. We choose not to partake in that.
Mhm.
We choose not to have that in our life because we want to be the light.
Yeah.
And you know, and that's the hard decisions. That's the hard talks.
Yeah.
I was listening to a pastor and he was talking about music, and I know that that's, for me, like I had said, that was a stronghold. But when we're listening to that other music, it's worshiping something completely different. Most of the time, it's, you know, not godly at all, and there's lyrics that are totally against Christ, and we're listening to that over and over again. That's what's getting in our mind. When there's Christian music that we hear, it has scripture in it, it has truth in it, it's pointing everything back to the Lord. What do you think is going to grow your relationship? I mean, that other's just going to pull you further away.
Well, you're replacing garbage with light.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that video I posted on Facebook, but it's talking about Beyonce. And they were all three believers and part of a small group type thing. And she goes, I got us Beyonce tickets. And they went, really? Really? You want to go see her? And then they weren't judging her. They were showing her that, hey, when you're singing her songs, you're worshiping something.
Yeah.
Because that's how she set it up.
Yeah.
And how she has her own service.
Yeah. I didn't know that. When
I didn't either.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah. And
there's another guy too. I can't think of, maybe Travis something, I'm not sure.
Oh, Travis Scott? I know
Maybe.
Travis.
Maybe, but he's like satanic. He worships Satan.
There's
And
a lot of them.
I don't know, it's just
Yeah.
crazy. And that's what his lyrics are all about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's where we got to look at. And we got to be careful that we don't come off being legalistic or a religious person. Because sometimes I know people who fire, hell, and brimstone. You don't have a King James Bible, you're going to hell. But then they're over there listening to all this rap music and say, oh, that's okay. I can do that.
Just music.
It's just music.
That's what I understand about other religions, that they're very like legalistic, or saying, but then they go back to living the way they are.
You know, there's people who looked at me and said, you are a hypocrite. Okay, why? And they said, well, because you took your family to Disney World.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, what is that? Well, that's nothing but a bunch of satanic things. They glorify homosexuality and da-da-da. And I'm like, do you go to Walmart? That company supports it. I guarantee every one of you go to Walmart. I guarantee you buy everything in the sun in the stores, and you don't know what those companies represent.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I went because of Disney, because it's a cartoon and things and this and that, and so we got to be careful. We can be so legalistic about that, but then when it comes to some movie that's part of your growing up, you dress the part to go watch the movie at the theater, and you're like singing its praises. It's not even
blasphemy.
It's very blasphemy, and it's not even biblical in so many things. And so that's where we got to be careful. We can't be legalistic. We can't force people to do a certain way. What we do is, this is how just as that verse I read it, that we do this to end all arguments. right? Arguments of any kind because we're living it for Christ. Let me read it to us again. I did have it memorized, but I'm on camera and I know I don't have it memorized now. It says, we destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God. And so that's anything that people think you have to do in order to be a child of God. I mean, it's kind of like you must wear dresses, you must have long hair, you must have King James only, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And it says, and take every thought captive to obey Christ. And so that's the reason why we got to set the guidelines in our house that protects us spiritually. And to be that example. And I remember, some people who are believers think it's okay to drink. That's between you and the Lord. But I know sitting in that church that Sunday morning after we went out the night before and had a few drinks, and I was sitting there and I stood up and was singing, and the Lord said, how dare you be in my house worshiping me with a hangover? And it broke me. And Katie felt the same conviction, and we went home and poured everything out. I mean, we didn't give it away to somebody else to use. We just poured every last drop out. Our sink was as happy as sink in the whole country.
We did the same with the movies,
We
too.
did the
We
same thing
burnt
with the
the
movies.
ones instead of, reselling them or whatever, we burnt them.
And I can remember some of the things I burnt, it would not burn.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
It would not burn.
Yeah.
I tried my best to
We
burn
had to,
them.
smash them. I don't know.
It would not burn. I don't know.
And he was real big about movies. Like I am with
I
music,
remember
he
you
was
said.
real
Yes.
big about
I
movies.
mean, I had a movie collection. I had over 2,000 plus DVDs. I was huge about movies. But, now we got a guideline, PG-13. And actually some PG-13s we can't watch.
Yeah.
But now this is, VidAngel does not sponsor us. But if you want to sponsor us, go ahead, VidAngel. But it's a great program to do, so you can watch those movies on Netflix and so forth, and it bleeps out all languages. It bleeps out any impurities. It'll even take out kissing
Oh, wow.
out of it.
You select
You
what
just
you
select
want.
it. I mean, that takes out homosexuality in it. And if it's a man-woman kissing, you don't want that to be shown to your kid. Cleavage.
It'll blur it.
It'll take it out.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, but there's ways you can still watch things and be a part, see stuff without having all of that filth.
Yeah.
And trust me, I've watched episodes that I was blushing because it was so bad, and now I stopped watching it because it was so bad. If I watch a VidAngel, I ain't even miss a thing, and it's all beep.
Yep.
And they keep talking, and then a few minutes later, I might hear another beep, and it's gone. And
Or it's just silent.
Or it's silent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It's
pretty
good.
cool.
Yeah.
But you got to do those things in order to protect you and your family.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yourself, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean we're judging. We're just trying to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When life feels dark or heavy, how do you keep your focus on the light of Christ?
I like that question.
Yeah.
That's a really good question. I think it's just seeking God through His Word, through friends, through music, through anything you find to get yourself closer to God. I think that's way. I mean, I feel like last week I felt very like how Mando was feeling very outcast. But it was because of myself, because I wasn't putting myself into the church, and I was just feeling like that throughout the whole week, and I could feel like a battle between like me wanting to get into the women's Bible study, but then I could feel like something was pulling me. Like I just didn't want to
I
talk.
knew it.
And I don't know why. And I usually do talk. But I
Yeah.
couldn't get myself to talk. Like something was really, really, really bothering me. And
Yeah.
I didn't know why. So I just kept on reading and I kept on getting into the Word more and more and just listening to more podcasts because that seems to help attract me more when it comes to spiritually. And then Sunday too, I could feel it. It was just only during the worship times. If I was with you and I was with Jason, I was fine. But then right when I got to Sunday, I could feel it again. Like it was just like another attack.
Why do we go
Yeah.
into those spiritual battles?
Yeah.
Because Satan knows we're trying to. Because I mean
Yeah.
that hasn't. Thankfully, it hasn't happened. But I remember how I told you like
Yeah.
these last few weeks. I'm like I'm going.
But also,
All in.
who do you turn to in those times? What do you turn to in those times?
I always get
That's
those
important.
episodes randomly
Yeah.
too. And
So he's covering our light.
I know those things.
I'm
You see
trying
me
to
turn
keep-
my candle.
Your
Trying to keep it from
lampshade
burning.
is on.
Let's see.
Oh my
Actually,
gosh,
do
you're
this
gonna
first.
catch something.
I ain't gonna get something on fire.
I don't know why we get them, but I
It's
do get
kinda
them
like this.
randomly because I get like I have little depression with anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you're doing is you're in complete darkness.
Yeah,
right?
that's how I feel like.
You feel just like this.
Yeah.
And this is the reason I'm doing this, not to pick at you. But the enemy, if he can keep you in the dark and he keep you spiritually down, the reason you're having these spiritual battles that all of us will have is because the enemy's trying to keep you from growing spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes God might be getting ready to do something huge around you and you're going to miss out on the blessing because you're too much focused on me.
Yeah.
Okay? And so this is where you're at. And the question was, how do you stay focused to the light, right? So it's kind of like being in a mining tunnel. Okay? You're deep down in it, you have no light, but all the light you see is that at the doorways. You see right here. You see the light. And so how do you get out of that? You got to portray going to the light. And you keep going to the light until the light just starts getting brighter and brighter. All right? And that's how we've got to do spiritually. And the enemy wants you to feel like nobody loves you. Nobody cares. You know, if they really cared about you, they'd have done this. You know, no one came and talked to you this Sunday. Man, you know, everybody knows that you've gone through this, but nobody's called you. But
when nobody even knows anything.
Yeah.
But he uses that because
Yeah.
Another lady in the Bible study, she was saying she didn't want to come back because everybody knew.
And it was like,
Everybody knew what she had gone through, and they were going to judge her, and they were going to shun her, or whatever. And not everybody knew, and the ones that did just cared for her and didn't want her going through.
and that's the thing is, as a believer, it's a spiritual thing. I said this Sunday, and because I listen to Wretched Radio, which is one of the podcast guys I really like to listen to, and his little messages, and because you know he just pretty much tells like it is a lot of times. But this comedian was talking about we have this me monster living in us. It's all about me, and it's all about me. That's what I want, and so forth. And we're all guilty with the me because me want this, me don't need it, but me gonna get it, right? And so it's that me monster, and that's what the enemy uses against us to drive us away from the Lord. It's what I want, you know. It's like nobody cares for you, Megan. How many other people came up and said hey to you, Megan? You know, they're judging your singing.
I actually thought that on Sundays.
I know. I'm there. I think of it as I'm preaching. I look at people's faces and I'm like, they think I'm talking about them, and I have no idea what they're going through. I can see it in their face. But, you know, but that's the enemy. The enemy's coming in, and he's whispering those things in our ears to drive us deeper back into the mining shaft till we don't see the light.
Yeah, because if he pulls us out, he wins.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's
because if you think about it, if he pulls you completely out here, what's happening to your family?
Falling apart.
Yeah, and they all keep going further away from the Lord too, because they don't have an example seeing someone continue to press towards the light. And that's why it's so important for us when we get into that moment. We got to have those godly friends that says, "Hey, can you help me pray? Hey, can you help this? Can you help me do this? Can you help me get closer to the Lord? Can you help me study?" And so forth. You know, I think of Katie's brother. I am so proud of him. I'm telling you what, he has come along so far spiritually. But here recently, kind of found out that he's teaching a small group. He's over it, teaching it. And which is blowing my mind out. I'm just so proud of him completely. And so as you see that in people, it just really excites you. And that should actually help motivate us to even get closer and help us to get there. You know, so much that Katie said he was talking to her today, and he said, you know, he wanted to pray for us more and, you know, and talk to us more about things. You know, to me, that really excites us, you know. And so that's what we got to look at is the enemy's going to keep trying to pull you down that tunnel. But here comes somebody with that lantern. And to me, I was thinking of Robbie today.
Oh, wow.
That was that lantern coming
Yeah.
in saying, hey, come on.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
do this together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when you get pulled back into that mining shaft. That's why it's so important. You got that godly person's come back and says, all right, Megan,
Yeah.
come on. So, because you said you was around us, you didn't feel that way.
No, yeah.
Because we had a light shining over you.
Yeah.
And you still wasn't so dark in the mining shaft. But once we got away from you, the darkness in the mining shaft came around you.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's so important that when we get into that darkness that we stay focused on the light and on the Word of God.
Yeah. I do want to ask this to you guys, maybe you don't mind, but because I know you're the one shining the light in your family.
Mhm.
How do you encourage yourself to keep doing that, knowing that like you're the only one?
I mean, just by praying. I've been praying a lot lately. Whenever I can, I try to pray, and I'm praying for my kids and just being the positive, listening to Christian music. And I'm constantly telling my kids, like, they have to know because I'm constantly they know, they see it. They know, where are you going, Mom? To church. Yes, I'm going to church. I go, well, you guys can join me. Everyone's welcome to join me. Like, I go, you guys don't realize how fun church is or what what you can get out of it. I was like, I love going to church. I love my church. I love being influenced with my girls, because how you said about sometimes that darkness covers upon you.
Yeah.
I never knew what depression was till I lost my mom. And then you guys went through this. We've all gone through the same thing, but that darkness, remember I would tell you, Katie, I'm seeing this, and I don't like the feeling. It was an ugly feeling that I've never felt before, but it was like being secluded, to myself. And I was like, and I didn't come to church for a little bit, and I was just kind of wailing, however you say in myself, how you said you were feeling, like just not feeling it.
Yeah.
But then I told Katie, pray for me, please. I don't want to be here. And I tell people, now I know. And now I can understand depression. Now I know why people go through it. Because I went through it for a minute. Yeah. And thankfully, thank you, Jesus, that he got me out. He got me out, and I reached out because I didn't want, it was ugly.
Well, depression is a tactic that the enemy uses. And our brains are organs who get sick. I was thinking about your family, and as you was talking, have you ever just came out and asked them why? They just don't want to go?
No, I haven't.
And then you could even go to the question of this is, what do you believe in?
Oh, well, yeah.
Because I have had some of my kids tell me, like, well, I pray and I talk to God and you don't know what I'm doing. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not enough. Like, you have to be surrounded with other people, like godly people. So
then you have the questions you ask is, I ask people this question all the time. And one of the questions I always ask is, why should Jesus let you into heaven when you die? Because a lot of people have got the words. They all got Christianese words. I'm saved. I do this.
Yeah.
I pray.
Yeah.
You can't judge me. You don't know what I do in my personal life. Well, if I see oranges on the tree, I know they're oranges. Right?
Yeah.
Because why?
They're orange.
Because they're
orange. And are they by themselves or are they with other oranges? They're oranges, all right? And so if you're not ever in church, if you're not having the fruit of God, can I honestly say that you are a believer?
Oh,
And so those are the questions. It's hard questions.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's questions I think we just need to hear.
Yeah.
And, say, hey, if you was to die, where would you spend eternity?
Yeah.
I remember a young lady who came there at VBS, and I asked her a question. I said, have you got the greatest ticket in the world? And she goes, what's the greatest ticket in the world? And I said, salvation. Why Jesus should let you into the kingdom of God. And she thought, she looked at me, she said, I don't. And she's come to church. But I asked her that one simple question. And that's when Miss Jessica, actually, I asked her, I said, would you be okay if I got another lady to share with you and to answer your questions? And she said, yeah. And so Miss Jessica sat down with her and spent some time with her, and she led her to the Lord. And so maybe those are just the questions you might just have to ask. Now they might look at you and say, "Whatever, Mom, go on." But you know, your kids have kids, except for AJ and Julie, but everybody else got kids. And so the question is, ask them is, okay, what if they passed away and you never taught them Jesus?
Yeah.
How are you going to feel?
And that's kind of what I've told Katie on Sunday. I was like, if not them, then me.
Yeah.
Because even God laid it in my heart. I want to do a Bible study with them, with my grandkids. Yeah. They're all invited. I mean, of course, I'm going to tell them, it's for you guys, but I want to focus more on the kids because if not them, then me.
Yeah.
Then who?
Yeah, if they're not going to lead them to the Lord, you're going to have to put the hat on, take them.
Yes, and I will.
And I've gave that to other people as examples. And, and the thing is, we just have to ask those questions. Those are hard questions. And you got to be prepared because you might not want to hear the answers.
Bad reactions towards it.
Yeah, but that's the same question. Even ask your spouse, or if he's not doing what's right in the Lord, like, hey, so tell me about your spiritual walk. And then say, I pray with them.
Well, and it's anybody who says they're a believer, but they're not walking with the Lord. Yeah. It's important to
just
ask them those questions.
It's kind of like, when I meet people at Kingdom Hall or a Mormon, I ask them those questions. I remember a couple, I sat down at VBS, I asked them a question. I said, I got 5 seconds to live. Tell me how to get to heaven. They looked at me like, oh. But I didn't belittle them. I asked them questions about their faith and asked them what that meant and had them try to explain it to me. And I was just telling them, hey, I want you to get into the Word of God. I'm not trying to convert you. I'm not trying to tell you whatever, but you need to seek answers.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of hard question. That's that shining the light, is having them ask questions. Your coworker is asking questions.
Yeah.
Because he wants to know more, right? And so he watches the podcast, he gets the other question, and the kid says, hey, and so forth. You have your coworker who's practicing Lent, and and you've been given a chance to be able to share that with them, right? And ask them why. Well, you should be fasting all the time, not just for 40 days, right? And so those are the things we have to ask questions. You might not like the answers, but asking the questions will absolutely get people to think.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you would like to end it on that one.
This one is real good. Who in your life has been a Christ-like light to you, and what impact did it have? Like a quick answer. I'm sure
I would like telling the story, but it was always you guys. Like whenever I came out to the park, I always saw something different from you too. Like it was like a.
Was it because we were what?
No,
the light glowing on
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
It was just your love for Christ. Like you guys coming to the park and still serving to kids who, like, you guys probably were expecting way more adults and more audience, but even then, like when it was just 5 kids, you guys were still there singing your heart out, preaching your heart out. And I think that just attracted me a lot, just seeing something different from you and like a sense of light, like how we were talking about, instead of going back to the Campitos and it was just full of darkness there. So that's what attracted me. That's the light and example that brought me to Christ. I would like saying that story because that's how I always pictured you guys as perfect.
But that was like, look at how you guys, the impact that you made on just these kids. You know what I mean? That it made the difference. Of what your purpose was for why God brought you here.
And you were there too.
And I was there too.
Yeah.
And look at, what they've been through, losing their mother and everything. You guys have like stepped in to be their parents. Like there was a reason for God lined it all up the way you always say He does, because He does.
Yeah.
And you guys came for a reason. And then look at, you guys are like their parents, adopted parents or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you do that to all the kids, not just them. You've done that with my kids, with my daughter, and you guys have just. God brought you here in the perfect timing.
And I've told Desiree before, I think it's Desiree or David, that like because of them coming at that age and then me accepting Christ at 10, having Christ and having that joy, and then for having that and then going through my mom, I wasn't going into depression. Like, I could have gone to worse, but because I had Christ, I wasn't as bad as I could have been. I still had joy through the situation. Like, even my aunt would come into our room. She's like, I don't understand why you guys are not crying. You guys just lost your mom like a month ago. I was like, yes, we did, but we're finding joy. We're going through it, and we're trying to live our lives through it. I'm like, I know my mom would have not had let us just be crying the whole month.
Right.
She would have wanted us to be with you guys and growing. I mean, she talked to you guys beforehand as well too.
Oh.
So that's what I said there. I told David, I'm like, God just knew the perfect timing to give me that sense of light and joy to go through the darkness that we had to go through, through my mom, through our dad, and our grandma, and everything. Yeah. I don't know if you guys have an example too. Who was it? Like, was Katie and Jason your light, or did I mean, more personal?
No,
your dad was a pastor.
Yes, but no, I think Katie and Jason too. Like, we just have grown that bond since they moved here, and just never left, and I'm thankful for that.
Mm-hmm.
Asper's taught me a lot.
I don't know how, but it's like we've said, like, you have to surround yourself with godly people, with spiritual people, encourage each other. And look at how you said it was just me and you in the beginning, me, you, and Kat.
And we would always try to do women's Bible studies. We'd always try to do this.
And now look at how it's grown, you know? Just like,
did the retreat.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was
something
an experience.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, goodness.
Yeah, whatever you want to call that boogeyman. What do they call it?
Chupacabra.
Yeah, chupacabra. Chupacabra. Mondo's in there laughing, and I'm like, just go to sleep, dude. We're all here. I think the boy's name was David. But, you know, mine would be Pastor Dale, because he's my accountability partner. He's the one I spend a lot of time with every week. But, you know, I care a lot for everybody we come in contact with here. Mm-hmm. From every child that we've ever had at the Campito, your whole family, Kat's family, you know, Anna's family, Julissa, we spent probably more time with than Cisco and Lucky. Mm-hmm. So, you know, still pray for them constantly, and for Louis, you know. Pray for Frank. You don't know where Frank is. You got to get up and just sing his heart out. I pray for Mary Valentine, you know, which I hadn't heard from her, seen her ever since she moved, but, you know, so forth. But the thing is, we just can't stop. We got to continue on. And
we have to be mindful that we could be that light to somebody else. We have to be cautious of what we are doing.
Yeah. And so another reason why, you know, I choose not to drink is because I care more about the people. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people struggle with that here in the Valley. And, I'm free to do whatever I want to. If I want to drink, I can drink, or whatever. But I choose not to because I do not want to be that stumbling block for someone else. Mm-hmm. We choose not to do a lot of things because we don't want to be that stumbling block. Mm-hmm. We
have to be careful reacting.
How we react, and I'm guilty of getting mad too easy with my boys, and I think probably a lot of it was doing my diabetes being out of control, which I haven't really gotten angry a lot since I've got it under control now.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, so I mean, all these little things just kind of goes along with it, but that's the reason why it's important for us to be praying for each other and
be in the Word daily.
Being in the Word daily. And that's why I think it's just more than just me and Katie being alive. It was all of
everybody,
those people being there. Some kind of reflected a little bit, but when times got tough, the light was never in them. They just went all back into the dark cave, into the mind. But it doesn't mean we don't love them, pray for them, care for them. You know, I think of all those kids. Like, I have no idea where the majority of them went. I think I saw where, I think Brianna now has a child and somewhere's in Edinburgh, I think.
Oh, wow.
And then, I don't know where Jewel is now. Or
I don't know.
any of those, you know. And I think of a Junior all the time. And I pray for him constantly that he'll come to know Jesus and he doesn't have a relationship with Jesus. He knows it. He's told me he does it, and so I pray for him constantly. Pray for Ryan constantly.
Oh yeah.
I pray for Popcorn.
Popcorn.
Yeah, Stephanie.
That's
But I pray for her constantly, and AJ and Stevie, and all these guys.
Arturo and Sam.
Arturo,
I know
Sam.
they're there and they just need the encouragement.
Yeah. It's hard for them because they moved away and they don't have that click.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to go into a church and have a connection, especially if it's a big church.
Yeah.
Because big churches kind of focus on me.
Mm-hmm.
I walk in, I hear, I go back out. No one talks to me, I go on.
Yeah.
But church is about being together and so forth. And so that's where we got to be praying together more.
Did anyone else have anything else to add before we close it? No? So I guess we'll close it on that note. We do encourage you guys to be the light of Christ throughout your life, whether it's at home, work, everyday life, Walmart, HEB, anywhere. Just show the light to Christ as we're showing here. That the importance of being the light will bring others towards Christ or encourage others towards Christ. We do have our Sunday service at 9 a.m. for Spanish, 10 a.m. for Bible study, and then 11 a.m. for English service. And if you guys don't want to start off too big on the Sunday services, we do have Wednesdays, which is at 6:30 p.m., which is on Colossians, right? Colossians, we're starting on Colossians there. So if you'd like to join us, we do have potluck, so we do serve you guys food there as well, so you don't have to worry about that. And then I know we're going to have our big Sunday Easter service, which is going to happen starting at 7:30, correct? 7:30 a.m. for the sunrise? Or what time? 7? So we'll start at 7 for the sunrise. Then we'll continue on with our regular services, right? Which would be 9 a.m.
And we'll have breakfast.
We'll have breakfast after the sunrise service. Yes.
Yeah, so if you guys want to come first on hot breakfast, you guys can also come on Easter for that. We're just going to have a whole morning planned out for that. So that'd be a great way to celebrate Christ. And
sunrise at 7:04,
So 7 a.m. We hope to see you guys there for Easter. And I think that will be it. Announcements we have. So you guys want to say bye and close it up?
Bye.
Hasta luego.